Okay.
All right, we are recording. All
Okay.
right. Thank you so much for coming out and giving us some very needed answers to this pandemic. A lot of people here are here because they want to get some more information on how to use control charts in order to make business or the process more predictable, because right now we are completely in a unpredictable time. And so, Balaji, I will let you go from there. You can, if you don't mind an introduction, I would appreciate that.
Oh, you want me to talk about myself? That gets very
Yeah, give a little
embarrassing.
bit of
But
background.
all right, all right. Okay. Just my qualification. Well, I'm an electrical engineer by profession. So I completed my graduation in electrical engineering, and then I, for some reason, took a liking to quality management. And in my country, it was in its infancy in the 90s. So that was the time when they introduced for the first time in my country a postgraduate diploma in quality management. And I was in the foundation batch. So we were the guinea pigs, so to say. I think a year or so after I completed the course, I went on to then be enrolled as a professor teaching the course. So I became a teacher, I think 2 batches. Just a batch after me, I was not allowed to do that, but the batch after that. So the 3rd batch, I started teaching them, and it was quite fulfilling till they didn't market the course very well. So the course um, just went kaput. Later on, of course, I went on to complete a master's in quality management. That came much later. So I was teaching part-time. I used to work in a manufacturing unit, and I was teaching in the evenings, but then there was one of the colleges where I used to go in the evenings, and the gentleman then said, I need you during the day. I just can't have you coming once a week in the evening, because here in India, regular courses are run throughout the day, and not the option that you have in the US that you could also do it, like what we would call as a part-time, but you call as a full-time course, but you only do it 2 or 3 days in a week or things like this. We have an everyday kind of thing. So he insisted that I come during the day, and it was not possible for me to leave my job and do that unless I, just said to him, make me an offer I can't refuse. And he did just that. And so I made the switch to academia around 13 years ago. Before that, so it was, I was teaching before that, but like I said, not in a professional kind of thing that I do now. So now it's just academics. I teach. There are 4 colleges in a particular campus. It's called Balaji University, not named after me, don't worry. But all the 4 colleges, so I'm busy the whole day. I just take lectures. I think I teach 7.5 hours a day. So I take an hour and a half of sessions, in at least 5 of them every day. And I'm busy because the person who founded the particular university, he does not believe in even taking a Sunday as a holiday. So we work every day. But then during the time when the children go for their internships, that's when I have time to myself. I do a lot. I did a consulting. I dabble in it. I can't say I'm a consulting professional or something like that, but I dabble in it. All right, and most of the work is then it's research based and things like this. And I love to sort of recreate most of the literature that has got lost in quality. Well, coming to this one particular tool, the control chart. Okay, my personal take. We all know, I'm not getting into the semantics of the control chart as to how to draw it, etc. I think the interpretation is important, because drawing a graph is one thing, but interpretation. And that's where I find it's very powerful. First of all, I don't know why Walter Schuhart called it the control chart. I think let's put ourselves in his shoes. When he invented this, everything was chaotic, and he had to bring in some order to the chaos. And so when he invented this tool, it seemed like there was a lot of control that they could establish, and that's why hence the name. Don Wheeler, I don't know how many of you heard of this name, Dr. Don Wheeler. He's a genius. He happens to be one of, but he learned with W. Edwards Deming, and he runs a company called SPC Press. And he came up with the idea around, I think the year 99, 2000, that let's rename this and call it as a process behavior chart. because that's exactly what this is all about, right? It's about looking at the chart and trying to understand the behavior of the process. But then the term SPC became statistical process control, and he said, I don't like statistical process control. So that would mean his own company would have to change their name. But Dr. Henry Neave, who also is a close associate of W. Edwards Deming and author of the book The Deming Dimension, suggested that he could change his name to change SPC to System Performance Charting, which I think now makes more sense. So let's come to that. Everybody looks at a control chart as an after the effect kind of tool, draw it just to get some kind of, sitting in a comfort zone that, oh, everything's within limits and everything's fine. I think that's just the beginning. All right. And for that, let me just take you through. So I'll have to share my screen and share some presentation, some graphs. But once again, I'm not getting into, like I said, how to draw them, because I think most of the people here would be certified to Six Sigma, all right, green and yellow and black. I'm none, all right, none of them. So the only qualification I have is, well, that I was taught through long distance, if I can use that way, by Professor Henry Neave, through letters and telephone talks. When we started corresponding, there was no internet, so I used to wait for his letters, and then got the internet. We started talking started exchanging emails, and then I had the good chance of meeting Dr. Duran when he was alive, and then I kept in touch with him as often as I could over the telephone. So whatever chats we had, whatever learning I had was from these gentlemen. Of course, as I worked, I also implemented all of this with whatever inputs that I got. So let me just get to sharing the screen. I think that's what we need to do here. So where's the screen? Okay, so here we are, and microphone on. So okay. So can you see the graph here?
Yes.
All right. Now this is data that I collected in my company. You can see here that there was some kind of an experiment that we did here, and that the workers were making 50 pieces a day, and we were, drawing a chart of the rejects that were being created here. So you can see that worker one made 50 pieces, and then he had 10 rejects, and worker two 11, and so on and so forth. And we then, of course, drew the control chart for this. Okay, so I'll just take you straight to the control chart here. Okay, let me just, this is, of course, the computations. Now, let's look at this, all right? If you see here that the average is hovering around the 10s, okay, the 10.16. For those who want to see the computations, I'll send you the file later. And the upper limit talks about it being close to 19 number of rejects, and the lower limit is around 1.6, which we can round off to say 2. Now let's interpret this, because people normally manage by the average. And let me tell you what happened in my company. The HR, so anybody who's on this chat who come from the HR background, well, this was a revelation. This lady comes in and she comes up with a reward and recognition scheme for the workers, saying that the average number of rejects is 10. And so we're going to track you for the next 1 week. And whoever's the highest above 10 is going to get punished, and the lowest below 10 is going to get rewarded. All right. Now, I decided to step in, and I said, that's not the way to do it, because we don't even know if the process is at fault. So I convinced her into drawing a control chart for this. And I said that if all the defects lie within limits, well, then the process is creating the defects, not the people. And the way we looked at it, we said that we can't manage by the average. We need to manage by the limits. All right. So let's interpret this. The upper control limit is around 19, which means if we didn't carry out any corrective action on this, we would have as high as 19 out of 50 pieces being rejected. But conversely, if you look at the lower control limit, it says the minimum defects possible, no matter what the workers did, was 2. That means no matter what the workers did, they could never hit a 0. And that's where I say the HR, you can't come up, this is where Deming's point number 10 comes in. You can't come up with arbitrary targets, like I want 0 defects. You can't come up with a poster, wanted 0 defects, when the process itself is going to give you 2 no matter what. All right, so we cannot manage by the average, we need to manage by the limits. Now, what we ended up doing, of course, after this was looking into the reasons why we had rejections, and we did find that there was something that was happening, okay, in the process, and finally fixing it and bringing it down to 0. But the lesson that I took away from this, all right, and even for those who are watching this, that you can never manage by the average. You need to manage by the limits, because the limits are telling you what the process is doing. All right. And the second thing, which I have learned from reading the works of both W. Edwards Deming and Joseph Juran, this is the greatest lesson I took away from them. When you have a case like this, when something goes wrong, never blame the person, blame the process. It's the process which is at fault. All right. Now, this was the chart which I used in my company for the first time to convince an HR lady that the process could be at fault and not the person. If we had points lying outside the limits, for example, if you had, someone who landed up here, all right, now what action would I take? All right, now talking to the HR lady, I said, what would you do? Well, under normal circumstances, she told me I would fire this guy. I would sack him, or I would punish him for something. Now I said, no, we got to bring him inside the system. We got to organize for a training again and see to it that he comes back inside. Conversely, if someone managed to get a 0 defect, then obviously that person is doing something very different from everybody else who's a part of the system. So what could we do here? Well, we could make this person the trainer of the process, and so that he could replicate, and then everyone starts hitting a 0. So we need not, like I said here, okay, manage by the average, and that's what's generally happening. Let's all confess here. Everyone looks at the average, nobody looks at the limits, and that's the precursor, or that's the setting the tone for what exactly I'm trying to talk about tonight. All right. So this was, of course, the first of the control charts. Let me just take you to another chart, which, of course, my students will immediately recognize this. All right, so here's the data points. Now, this data, okay, is the time taken for me to get from my home to college every day. All right, so I tracked this years ago when I started going to the college on a regular basis. I just explained to you that this was not my profession; it's now my profession. So when I started doing that, I started tracking the time taken, and you can see that this is all in minutes. So when I did an assessment of this, right, and I drew the control limits, so you can see here the average time is around 18.7, but then I find the variance, and then I find the limits to be 27 minutes, upper limit, and lower limit is 10.13. And when I plot the chart, it's all beautifully in control, all right? So 18.7 minutes is the average time that I take to get from home to college every day. Let me just show it here so that you understand here. And this is around 27.27 minutes, and this is around 10.13. So let's, for argument's sake, say that this is half an hour, and this is around 20 minutes, and let's make this as 10 minutes. Now, the beauty is, this is if I leave my house at 8 a.m. All right. So if I leave my house at 8 a.m., given the fact that I'm driving the same car, I'm taking the same route, all right, and facing the same kind of, the conditions of the road remaining the same, obviously, that's what this means. On an average, it takes me 20 minutes to reach college, but the max time I can take is around half an hour. And this is when I leave my house at 8 o'clock. If I leave my house at 8:05, all right, the average does not change much. But the limits sort of start expanding, because one of the common causes of the entire system, or the systemic causes, is traffic changes quite a bit, all right? And so the limits just widen a bit more, okay? If I leave at 8:10, the average also rises, okay, a little more than, say, 18.7. It goes to maybe close to 20. And the upper limit goes even wider. But when I leave at 8:15, all right, that's when the upper control limit crosses 45 minutes, all right? If it crosses 45 minutes, the conclusion I can draw from this is if I leave my house at 8:15, there's a good chance I won't reach on time for the 9 o'clock morning lecture, the first lecture in the day, all right? And that is why I leave my house every day at 8 o'clock, and all my students who are on this particular call will tell you, their witness, that the car is parked there in the parking lot by around 8:20. And I keep telling them, if by 8:30 my car is not parked there, well, there is a special cause. Either I'm going to come in really late or I'm not going to come in at all. And believe me, okay, for 13 years, this graph has held up. So you can see how powerful this can get. Back again to what I'm just saying here. Don't manage by the average, manage by the limits, right? The limits are telling you what the process is doing. I have had cases even of 10 minutes, so the half an hour bit, yes, I mean, max time, everyone in the college, in fact, people, it's a kind of a joke there in college that this guy comes, you know, he's never late. And then when I explain this in class, right, they all just giggle and they nudge each other and they say, yeah, we've seen him around, you know, by 8:20, he's parking the car, and by 8:30, he's in the classroom and things like that. So it's all because I know exactly how much time it's going to take me. I can plan for any contingencies. And there have been cases, I can tell you a very funny case that happened some 6-7 years ago when I was not feeling well that morning. I got up in the morning with the temperature. Actually, I went to sleep at night with a fever, and then I thought that it passed through the night. But then when I woke up in the morning, I was still very feverish. So it was 6:30 in the morning, and I sent out a message to the academic coordinator in college saying that, I'm sorry, I don't think I'll come in for a class today, so please reschedule whatever you can. And for some reason, I don't think she saw the message till later. But then there's one of the students who came to class at I think 8:35 or 8:40, and he sees I'm not sitting in class, and I was supposed to have a lecture with them. And then he comes running out and he goes to the car park and he sees my car's not parked there. So he goes running down to the office and he meets the person there who's a class in charge and says, ma'am, it's 8:40 and Balaji Reddy sir's car's not parked right there in his parking lot. I don't think it's going to come. Now, that lady who was in the office was also my ex-student, and she said, oh my God, that means he's not going to come. It's 8:40. It's way beyond the control limits. And so she dials the academic coordinator and says, you know, Reddy sir has not yet come in, and I don't think he's going to come in today. She said, wait till 9 o'clock, the coordinator. And obviously she had not seen her phone or a message till then. These were the days when there were no WhatsApp. So we used to send each other messages, you know, SMS. And so she had to see that, right? Unlike the WhatsApp where you have a notification kind of thing. We didn't have smartphones, are not so smart, right? So anyway, so that's what it was. And then finally at 9 o'clock, she comes to class and says, God damn it, you guys were right. How did you know, that he's not going to come? And then they said, you'll never understand. It's called the control chart. Now, when I was explaining to the students in class, there was something very unique that happened, right? One of the students came to me and he said, is there any other way of using the control chart? You're just using this for time taken for you to get from home to college or the manufacturing. And I've understood the whole gist of the whole thing that you're telling me. But is there anything else? Okay, he asked me in class, and I said, okay, I'll share with you something which is very, very unique, right? Now, for those who come from India, are quite familiar with this case, but I'll just try to be as brief as possible. 27th of July, all right, 2005, okay? There was something very special that happened in Mumbai, right? Mumbai recorded, and it's a world record, they recorded 944 millimeters of rain in a single day, all right? And it was a cloud burst. It was a world record. Nobody anticipated. It was a combination of too many things happening. There was a low pressure area. I mean, I'm not an oceanography guy or or a geographer, someone who's very well versed with geography, but I think we learned well enough in our school to understand this. All right. And the whole of Mumbai city went literally underwater, and there was, well, I can say it now, it was a literal lockdown. I mean, it's just, you can't say the same what it was then, but it was terrible. It was a natural calamity, and people were stranded on the streets. There were people who spent the nights, you know, on top of trees, people who spent the nights at their place of work. I remember some people being stranded at their, at their apartments when the water was coming inside. It was quite frightening. All right. So it was an unforgettable day for people living in Mumbai. And this is when the media went berserk, and because Mumbai is the financial capital of India, right? And who doesn't know about Mumbai? But then when this happened, the media went berserk and they started blaming just about everybody, the government, they really hype up things. And so this lady, who was very well known here in India, she lands up outside the main building of the state government in Mumbai, all right? And she keeps asking with the reporter, she's waiting there with the reporter, and she keeps asking every minister walking out that you have just one cloudburst and that brings the whole of Mumbai to a standstill, the financial capital of India. Is that all your disaster management plan is ready for? And she keeps doing this for over 2-3 days. And on the third day, she gets to ask this question to the chief minister. Now, a chief minister in India is equivalent to a governor of a state in the United States. Okay, for those who are here, who are logged in from there. But I think those from India will definitely understand. And so she asks him. Now, by this time, 3 days have passed. So people must have alerted him that there's this lady asking. So why don't you, get ready with your reply? And he said, and this is what he said in the interview, right? He said, look, lady, the average annual rainfall for the month of July for the last 25 years. Now we're talking about 2005. So this man has done an analysis from 1980 to 2004 for July only, all right? All right, for the month of July, he says the average annual rainfall is 684 millimeters, all right? 84 point something. This was 944, and that too in a day, all right? How do you expect me to be ready for this? And when he said that, that lady had absolutely no answer, and she said, oh, I understand. So this is, so you were not ready, and I'm sorry, and blah, 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 whatever. But when I was listening to that interview, I said, God damn it, this is a case, right? So let me look at this case. So I just managed to pull this out, okay? So give me a minute here. Here, can you all see this? I don't know, can you see this, Valerie?
Yes.
Yeah, can you see 1980? I managed to pull this out. So let's look at this. So you can see here all the annual rainfalls here. Okay, I don't know whether you can check this, but let me just get this going. All right, so you can see here, these are the annual rainfall, 1980 to 2004. And like he said, the average is 684.92. But the upper control limit is 1004 millimeters, and the lower control limit is 365. Now, can we control the rainfall? No, but we can predict it. And if we can predict it, then we can manage it. And that's what the whole control chart is all about. All right. I keep saying that we need, if you draw the control chart, all right, for the kind of data, all you have to do is to get to the process, get the data, plot it, draw the control chart, but manage by the limits. Do not manage by the average. Whether it is, when we learn about time and work study, right? We do average time, and then we add factors in. I think let's just change that. Why don't you draw control charts for the time taken to complete each and every process, and then use the upper control limit as a basis for, well, preparing for the worst case scenario, and the lower control limit is what is possible. Okay, it's the best possible timing. right? If you land with negative, obviously it's zero. So that's not possible, but you can have it that way. I mean, you can just say, okay, let's aim for the best. Let's aim for least amount of variation, but it begins with that. Or you can always manage by the upper control limit. You could do this for evaluating your suppliers. You could use this for, going to the process, to the suppliers' processes. I mean, don't say it's not possible. I've done it. All right. I mean, I've done it in my company when we had around 80 suppliers, and I remember having gone to their premises one by one. I know it's not easy, but that's the way you do it. All right. When referring to Deming's 14 points, when Deming in point number 4 says, work closely with your suppliers, invest in them in education and training. All right. I believe, again, I'm talking to the HR people on this group, whoever are here. Okay, if they're logged in, HR, you got a different job here. Training is not just for the people in your company. Training is for the people who contribute to your company also. And don't call them suppliers, they're providers. All right, they're your providers. And so you go to their premises, train them in this. Imagine if you train them in control charting and explain to them what the limits mean. Okay, what is the significance of the limits? Then what is improvement? Well, improvement is when you start reducing that variation. When you reduce the variation, you're reducing the unpredictability in a process. That's why Valerie very quickly, she picked on this and titled this particular talk as trying to manage unpredictability in this kind of scenario. Where I'm trying to manage it, yes, we're trying to make it as predictable as possible. It is unpredictable, but if I know, okay, what to do, and this is prediction. Prediction is not some astrological prediction, but this is what it is. All right. So we can go into the process. We can draw control charts for the time taken, for outcome of any process, and then we can manage by the limits. Okay. The way I did it with my suppliers, I told you I drew control charts for all the times taken in their processes, and then I knew for each and every product how much time it would take in a worst case scenario to get the material into my premises. And by and large, they would be below that. And so I became a pseudo just-in-time kind of company. All right, but it all begins with this. All right, we need to reduce these limits as much as possible. That's the lean management, blah blah blah, whatever. Okay, but I think we can monitor it through this, and not just as a tool to say, oh, everything's within limits. Let's just dance all over the place. Absolute nonsense. We need to go by the limits. Now, coming to the COVID-19. All right. Okay. So I hope I made a few things clear here. This one, of course, was an eye-opener. Like I said, the time taken for me to get. Now, this is a practical example. I can't get more practical about it. All right. This is my personal example. This is not available in any book. In fact, even the previous one was not from a book. It's the experience that I've had, and of course, the rainfall which I just shared with you. The whole data is there, so you can see here the average and the limits. But now let's come to what we are faced with right now, the COVID-19. All right. And when all of this began, all right, and in India, when it reached India, it was around I remember it was the 12th of March, 11th of March at night, India time, when WHO declared COVID-19 as a pandemic, right? And 12th of March, I was in Mumbai, and then 13th of March, I came back to college, and we had a lecture, and that's when the chief minister of our state said that I think we need to get into a lockdown in our state. And then on 14th of March, we just got into a lockdown in our state, right? So I haven't been to college since 14th of March, and most of all of my students, if you've not seen each other in person except for over Zoom or Microsoft Teams, we've not seen each other for ages. I hope they remember me when we all come back. Maybe I've grown more haggard over the days, but nevertheless, okay. So this was when I was just looking. I mean, and then they started tracking the data of the cases coming in every day. All right. Now it didn't really get to me till I think the first week of April. It was around I think the 2nd or 3rd of April, and by this time the nationwide lockdown had been declared by the Prime Minister on 24th of March. And they said we're going to be down for 3 weeks. All right. So that would mean April the 14th. And then the tracking became more and more intense. And that's when numbers started making their way into many sites. And I started seeing the analysis, and again, I could see the panic button being pressed. Everyone was pressing the panic button. All right. The cases are going up. Oh my God. Ooh, yeah. I said, okay, cool. Let me look at this. Why don't I look at it from the view of the control chart? What if I can plot the ratio of positive cases versus the number of people tested per day? And if that ratio is within limits, well, then we don't have to panic. All right. And so I started gathering all the data. It took me around 3-4 days because there was there's a smattering of data available all over the place. All right. And when I started doing that, wow, I mean, that's when things started getting to a different perspective here. All right. So I decided to do an analysis. Now I'll just take it to that. Let me just get to, okay, the report. Let me see where this is. Yeah, so there is control chart for COVID-19. Now you can see here, Valerie, can you see this?
Yes.
All right. So you can see the number of tests conducted. All right. So March 17, there were 12,000 tests conducted, and the number of positive cases is 110. Right. Now, on March 18, there were 14,000. So the delta test, that means the change in the number of tests is 2,000, right? And the change in the positive cases is 5. And so the percentage of positive cases in the change is 0.25%. And I started plotting these, all right? Now, there was an incident that took place in a mosque where there was some gathering, and you can see that at that time, okay, this was around April the 1st, where you saw the percentage is 40%, and here's the control chart, way outside the control limits, all right? And average is around 6%, upper control limit is 24%, okay? Meanwhile, the number of tests being conducted every day had gone up to 10,000, which means 24% of 10,000 is 2,400. So if the change would be more than 2,400, or the number of cases more than 2,400 per day out of 10,000, then we'd need to panic. If it's around 600 per day, it's still okay, and it is okay. You can see it's all lying within limits, all right? So without the mosque incident, I removed that, and everything came within limits. You can see the 40. And this one, okay, was again as an absolute, I mean, I made the second update with and without, so you can see here. Now, this is the same graphs, but over a longer period of time. You can see I updated it till April 8th. The previous one was till April 5th, all right? Now, this was the first report. I sent this, all right, now I'll show you here. This is a gentleman, Dr. Giridhar Gyani. He is the Director General of the Association for Health Professionals in India. And he is part of the COVID-19 task force that reports to the Prime Minister. So when he saw these reports, he called me up. I sent him these reports, by the way, and he was he called me up and he said, "Good job. You've done a good job. And can you just explain this to me?" And so I had to write out a report for him, along with the graphs which I just showed you. All right. And then he said, "Could you do this for fatalities happening?" So I did the same thing for fatalities. And here you go. So the average change in the fatalities is around 8, and maximum possible is around 26, which means we had a surge here, right? 46. Okay. Now, the next day, 10th of April, we could have a worst case scenario of 46 plus the difference 26, which is 72. Or I could have a low end of 46 minus 26, which is 20, right? So anything between 20 to 72 cases would be still within limits, if I can put it that way. And an average, we could say it goes up to 54 or comes down to 38, all right? I hope you understood what I just said here. What I've done is I've taken the absolute value, 46, and I've added the differences. So you can see either 8 or 26, okay? And when I add 26 to 46, I get 72, which is the upper limit. And if I subtract 26, I get 20, which is the lower limit. And if I add 8, I get 54, and I get 38. So I called up the gentleman, okay, the person from the AHPI, and I told him, because I said, I'm making a prediction tomorrow, that is 10th of April, all right, we could have around 38 fatalities, and with a max of 72, and maybe if we come down to 20, you won't believe what happened. They recorded 37 fatalities, and that is when these guys started, they really started believing what I was doing here. So here it is. Here's my report. Maximum difference to predict worst case and best case scenario. And this one, okay, you can see here is for the differences. Now, I'll take you through, okay, I've been giving these reports regularly. So you can see, of course, my next report where percentage positive, can you see this? It's crazy, right? From 2,000 tests conducted per day, the change came in 27th, it went down to 3,000, 8,000, and the percentages have been pretty much within limits, all right? So this is up to 10th of April, but I've updated it recently. I think I should have it here somewhere. Okay, if I can't find it now, we can look at it later, all right? But I have the graphs only. Let me just take you back there. Okay, I'll have to just come out of this and take you to another file and show you something else, all right? So, okay, where is this? Yeah, all right. So here goes. Now, this is difference in reported fatalities, right? Now, take a look here. There was this one spike which came, which you saw just now, all right? And yesterday, the difference is 0. The differences have been coming down, all right? And so it's pretty predictable, all within limits, except for this one spike, which, of course, I just explained what it was at that time. There was one on 10th of April. If you remember, I just showed you that there was a spike, all right? But this is the percentage of fatalities, all right? This is number of fatalities upon the number of cases detected. So you can see here, it's been rising, and there was a cause for concern here. But the last 3 days have been pretty good and come back within limits, all right? So this was the percentage of fatalities, right? Now we go to the percentage of recoveries. Now this is crazy. It's going through the roof, all right? And you can see the people recovering have been going up. The number of people, the fatalities is coming down, all right? And here is the percentage of positive cases. It began from, I've done it from 1st of April. I also have it from 27th of March. If you could see that, I can show you that too. But you can see here that there's a downward trend and it's kind of stable. So my conclusion here, the percentage of positive cases is well within limits and it's coming down. The percentage of recoveries is going up. The fatalities are coming down. So we're pretty good. But the media is looking at the absolute numbers and making an absolute mess. All right. And the way they're scaring people, I'll just show you that in the Excel sheet. Now, let me just take you here. This was the graph which I just showed you, but let me show you the number, the raw data. Here you go. All right. Take a look here. Okay. Can you see the number of tests being conducted? Now, start from the 3rd of April, 13,000, 10,000, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes up to 15,000. Mm-hmm. Now, that day, all right, we had a number of the number of positive cases. Let me just freeze this. I think we can do that, right? Where is that? Can I freeze the panes? Damn. Okay. Let me just see this. Okay. So here you can see that the daily confirmed. Okay, the day to day, right? I remember when the media jumped at this, right? 871 cases tested positive today, blah, 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 blah. 5.3%, my friend. What are you talking about here? All right. And then you jump here. They went 1,000 cases, positive cases today. Sure, but we tested 21,000. What about that? 5.07. And then they say 1,284. Yeah, sure, but we tested 30,000, guys. Why are you panicking? And yesterday, the same thing happened. All right, the day before, 2,200, the peak. India is getting out of control. Damn it, you tested 37,000 people here. Obviously, it's way within limits. 5.42 is the average, but if I calculate the limits, now this is updated till 19, so I can say 5.37. 5.42 is, yeah, and upper limit is 11.33. Here you go. There's a graph here. You can see that here. All right. If I were to show this, and there's just that one peak, right? 27th of March, and everything else is coming down. I really don't know what to say. So these guys are just making big noise, all right, without even knowing what they're trying to say here. Same with, okay, if I were to take this forward and show you the recovery rate, it's crazy. Yesterday it was 15.19%, and average is around 9.6% with an upper limit of 11.4. Same with the fatalities. So we're all doing okay, but the media is only reporting absolute numbers. You draw the control chart for the percentage of people being found positive, and everything changes. The whole thing changes. All right. You can make the unpredictable as predictable as possible. The reason
Balaji, can you hear me? We do not have audio. All right, sorry everybody. Looks like we're having some audio difficulties right now.
So we can't hear you.
Okay, hold on. I think we lost Dr. Professor Daltrey. He's coming back on right now.
what happened? I went off the grid.
Yes, it looks like he did.
So till where did you see me?
I can see you and hear you now.
No. Where did you? Till where were we together?
Let's see. You're still talking about using the charts, right? Hold on.
But did I show the Excel sheet?
Yeah, you were still showing the Excel sheet.
So I really can't tell where I lost you, because I came
Mhm.
out of that.
So you were commenting on how media was creating a fuss
Yeah, but which data did I
about
show?
all that.
The data in the latest Excel sheet.
One sec. Let me, because I'll have to share the screen. I hope I don't lose.
Till 19th April, you have shown the data.
Okay, I showed till 19th April. Yeah, I was showing
Yes.
you all that data, and I showed that the media was creating a hype on the number of cases when I was looking at the percentage of positive cases, and that was way within control limits. You saw it yourself, right? And they were creating, I mean, and we can also predict, right? Because the worst case scenario would be the upper control limit, which I think at that time was 11.6. So, and they're carrying out something like 30,000 and 35,000 tests per day. So if I take an average 30,000 and 11% is a worst case scenario, we're talking about if there's a spike of say 3,600 or 4,000 cases in a day, then we have cause for worry. If you know what I'm trying to say here, right? Look, cases are bad. I'm getting it. I'm just saying here that unnecessarily creating a panic and just setting people on a wild goose chase, searching for a black cat in a dark room when there's no cat, right? You can't do things like this, all right? And we saw all the graphs. I think I showed you all the raw data. Also, how the percentage of fatalities were coming down, the percentage of recoveries were going up, and the percentage of positive cases is pretty stable. Right? In fact, it's a downward trend. If you saw there was a small little mini spike within the limits, but there was a downward trend. So bottom line here, I was just saying this when I think I lost connection, that anybody here from the United States who's watching in, if you can take your data and analyze it the way you just saw, you would see something else. This does not replace, like I said, any other statistical analysis. It just adds to it. The advantage you have here are the limits, okay, which brace you for any kind of eventuality, right? And at least you can't predict it, but at least you can manage it. You can't control it. You can predict it to a certain extent, and when you can predict it, you can manage it. That's the way I like to look at it. All right. So this is what I wanted to share. Of course, I tried to make it as simple as I can. I didn't get into the semantics of actually computing and things like this. I think many of you are very well versed with it. I just gave you a different perspective. I hope whatever I shared would be very useful to you, not just in COVID-19, but what I call as PCE, the post-COVID-19 era. All right, so we're going to get into that, right? And so when we get back to our place of work, we could be using control charts differently, not necessarily to only, find the special causes. Of course, that's the idea is to demarcate between what is a part of the process and what is not, and then try to see to that those disturbances don't come again. But the second part is to study the process itself and try to manage by the limits. And then we work on the improvement is to reduce those limits as much as possible. You all are very well versed with what those methodologies are. But again, managing by the limits would give you a good insight into a process. Okay, so the two things I'd like you to keep in mind: never manage by the average, manage by the limits. And second, if you're dealing with a process that is being run by a person, then never blame the person, blame the process when something goes wrong. All right, and all the ideas of improvement, of course, come from the people closest to the place of action. I think we need to spend more time listening to what they have to say. Nothing new under the sun, but the only thing I wanted to contribute is that here during my work days, I remember using this extensively. And even now, when I'm sending these reports into the gentleman from the Indian government, okay, just to let him know that everything is within limits. I'm quite sure they're doing some more analysis. You can't be just having a narrow viewpoint, okay? But this can widen your horizons and definitely make you look at things differently, right? Willing to take questions now, if anybody has any.
Nobody has any questions?
Jesus Christ. How can nobody have any questions?
I am surprised.
I think all the Indians are happy looking at the data which Sir shared. So everyone is happy. So everyone is happy right now rather than asking questions. People are still trying to digest the numbers which Sir showed, I guess.
Well, I can share those reports if you want, okay? Because I've sent them. There are 6 reports I've submitted to that gentleman in the government till now, and I'm preparing the latest update on that, because all the numbers are looking pretty good, though everyone is pressing panic buttons all over the place. Okay, just like I think the rainfall thing, most of the people remember, because I showed that data, because I think the average, again, the average thing is what people tend to manage by, which is, I think, misleading, pretty misleading. So, anybody else? who has any questions.
I think I do have a question if everyone is.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, so I'm trying to make an control chart to my country cases. So I'm not sure what should data I get. Is it like the number of tests that the country is doing, and then
Okay,
what
I'll
else?
just share that whole thing with you if you don't mind. All right.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Sure.
Wait a minute. Just put the share screen thing on so that you could look at this. All right. So, okay, let me just put this on, and here you go. Okay, now take a look at this. Can you see this daily tested? All right, and then have daily. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you see? Yeah. So there's daily tested, there's daily confirmed, and then you have percentage of confirmed. So that's 27 divided by 2000, right? Then you have the total confirmed, right? So, and then you have daily recovered and total recovered, and then percentage of recovered daily, which would be 20 upon 198, which is around 10.1010, and then you have daily disease. I think you're getting the drift here. All right. So this is what exactly I'm doing here. Now, once I've done that, I get percentages and then I find out the average. Okay. Now, I don't know if you're well versed with control charting. I'm using the XMR chart right now because you can use the XMR chart.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. Till for 30 data points.
Is it the moving average one, right?
That's right, the moving average one. Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So you can use that up to 30 data points, but more than 30, then you'll have to move to the X bar. All right. The more data you have, the better it gets. So what I would suggest is you go 10 days because you need 10 points at least to begin with. So you could do the last 20 days or something like that. And then you could draw a control chart for that for 20 points using XMR. And as you get more and more data, you could move to the X bar. Now, what I've done is I've made a separate, I started from 19th of March. All right. So this was 1 month and that was it. So what I've done is I've now made a separate chart for the month of April only. All right. So here you go. This is only for the month of April. So this report is what I'm going to be sending out tonight, right, to the Director General, and you can see here the average is around 4.9, right, for my positive testing. For recoveries, 10 points. Can you see it's 15.9? That's wow. I mean, 15.19 is huge, and the fatalities is around 3%. So it looks good when I'm looking at it as a rate. If you know what I'm saying, if I'm looking at absolute figures, I can set a panic button and unnecessarily send people running in the opposite direction. So I hope once again I've answered your question. So I would just take you back here so that you can see the raw data and see what I'm collecting. I think here it was. Yeah, there you go. You can just take this down if you want. The titles.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
You got that bit?
Yeah, I'll just take a quick picture if you don't mind.
Pardon me?
It's easier. Yeah, I just get a screen picture. Yeah.
Screenshot. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is all in the public domain. It's not mine. I'm just looking at it differently. That's all. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So I hope that's okay. So
thank you very much. It was helpful. So I'll try to get the data and then do the control chart. Is there like someone I can get consulting to see at my chart and how they are doing, or
you could send them to me.
Okay.
All right, that's not an issue.
Okay, that would be helpful.
All right, I can take a look at it and I can give you because I'm giving reports to this gentleman every day. I can also help you if you're reporting this to someone in your country. I think you should the initiative and just send it to someone. I just took a chance. All right, I knew this gentleman and so I came to know later that he's a part of the COVID-19 task force and. Then it went all the way up. So that's great. So I think we could do this. Which country are you from? I didn't really get that.
From Oman.
Oman. Okay. I don't think.
Yes.
Are you having a problem there at Oman?
Not really, but it's getting worse maybe. But I'm trying to at least do some data analysis to make the process better. Yeah.
This will work great. And for those. I think United States needs it.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So I hope that's
Yeah.
answered
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to
Yeah,
be of
thank you
help
very much.
if you could
Mhm.
make that, and you could send it. If you're connected on LinkedIn, you could see me there and send the message in there. The LinkedIn
Okay, that's all. Yeah, that's what I probably would do. So I appreciate your help, actually.
That's okay. That's absolutely
Thank
fine.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, Valerie, anything from you?
Well, my question is, I don't know if it's really a question or just a statement. Not just using this just to track the COVID virus, but also using it in organizations as far as when they come back on track. We can definitely see that currently a lot of organizations that are not producing right now, their control charts are going to be bottoming out. So using this as a control and a way to know how much they need to pull towards manufacturing instead of pushing towards the manufacturing.
Yeah.
And
You could do that. Yes, analysis the market trend.
mhm.
Yes, I think that could be done even retail and in the retail industry,
Mhm.
because you could sit on a day-to-day basis and see the consumption of certain items. And again, I've seen this happen again and again. They manage by the average, and they use in some cases they tend to use probabilities to determine this. All right, whereas this is quite different. I mean, for those who know this is not based on probabilities, because that was something very clear that Walter Schuhart said, that it's an empirical value. All right, what he came up with was purely empirical, based on pure practice. The books that you could read, okay, I could share with you some of the titles.
Mhm.
Don Wheeler, you could read all his books, but the ones which I would love that you guys read, one is Understanding Variation, all right, by Don Wheeler. He's explained these charts beautifully. Then there's Understanding SPC, Understanding Statistical Process Control. Okay, these are the two books by Don Wheeler. Professor Henry Nee has come up with a very comprehensive course called 12 Days to Deming, and in that there's an appendix for statistics and using control charts. So you could read that. It's for free, by the way. 12 Days to Deming is for free. It's available on spcpress.com or the UIC, that is theuic.com/Deming. So you could go to these two places and download. There are multiple files, but you can choose what you want to download. It's all for free, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, about paying for it. But these books, Don Wheeler's books, also Walter Schuhart's books are hard to digest, but they're good to have with you. And in your leisure time, if you could sit down and read, because it's quite heavy to read. That's Economic Control of Quality of Manufactured Product. That's the classic on which the control chart is based, and Statistical Methods from the Viewpoint of Quality Control. So both of them, Economic Control of Quality and Statistical Methods. I think I have them on slide also. Let me just try to see if I got them in. Okay. Oops, no, not this. I think this is the file. Yeah, my students, TChem for operations. All right. They're going to be so excited seeing all this. Okay, so yeah, this is Economic Control of Quality of Manufactured Product and Statistical Methods from the Viewpoint of Quality Control. These are, of course, the classic books.
So
Okay.
we can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't see? Just a minute. I need to just. Okay.
Yeah, right now we can.
Okay. Now
Yes.
Yeah.
can you see it? Yeah. So Economic Control of Quality of Manufactured Product and Statistical Methods from the Viewpoint of Quality Control. Right. These are the books, and Don Wheeler's books, which I added in, Understanding Variation and Understanding Statistical Process Control, Understanding SPC. All right. Besides this, 12 Days to Deming. Okay. Here it is, 12 Days to Deming. Right. but you won't find this cover there. Somebody took an objection to it. So anyway, that's a different story. But you could go there and see. This is, I'll just write down the name of the website so that you could get this. One is theuic.com/Deming. All right. And the other one is spcpress.com. Right. .spc press. There's a tab there, 12 days to Deming, so you could see that. Okay. So you could go there and look at there's a section on statistics that he's got into. Besides this, just sharing something special here. Okay, let me just get back to stop sharing the screen so that when I come back to Zoom, you guys can see. Right? Okay. The book, which the lectures that W. Edwards Deming delivered in Japan in 1950. Okay, and well, I'm the only man in the world who has a copy of this. Here it is.
Very nice.
Right? Elementary principles of statistical control of quality. But I've digitized this now. The copyrights are actually with the Deming Institute. But there's another compilation that I've made. I mean, you'll know the story of Deming. He was ignored in America for the longest time. All right? During those years, those 25 years, 1950 to 1975, he wrote a lot on statistical process control and explaining the uses of control charts just about everywhere. But people didn't pay attention. What I've done is I've taken those papers from the Deming website, all right, because they've been reproduced there in the format that they appeared in magazines, and the printing format was quite different, sometimes 3 columns, and the print is quite small. So I've cleaned it up and created a new file, and I've called it, that's what he called it, Administration of Statistical Quality Control, all right, Administration of Statistical Quality. Let me just, I need to share my screen again. So let me just do this and show you what I mean. Yeah. So here goes. Right. Okay. Here it is. Administration of Statistical Quality. I've got it Back to the Future, a series of papers. I've digitized this, but the good news is that I've been given the permission to share this. So the copyright is with the Deming Institute, but I can distribute this. And if you all want to see here you can see the definition of how he gave it, okay, in 1950 to 1971. And there's one of the most, I mean, there are altogether 8 papers which are here, you can see. So management is responsible for the use of statistical techniques, teaching as a national resource, some remarks of what happened in Japan, and some statistical aids towards economic production. So these are classic papers. If you want to read the originals, you can download them from the Deming website. There's a tab there on the side which you could reach out to. If not, if you want this all together in one place where everything is being compiled, and I've reproduced most of it. If I can try to show you here, you can see this is what the papers are. Okay. And he's really, where you can use it. Can you see here, production, increased output, blah, 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 management specifications, testing and comparison of processes of materials. Oh, this is brilliant. Auditing and accounting, city planning. I think this man was way ahead of his times. He wanted to say that you could use this anywhere. All right. And yes, this is just a pure text one. There are things with the figures, and I've had tough time, of course, reproducing. What I've done is I've written down the actual sources from where you get this. Yeah, these are the diagrams which I've reproduced. If you go and see the actual ones, they're quite tacky. All right. The way he did it, yeah, this is his famous diagram, the one which he drew in Japan, and he swore by it. All right. So these are on statistical quality, and what you just saw. Okay, I digitized that book which you just saw, and I called it the Deming Legacy. So the first part is the complete book here. You can see, yeah, these are the lectures that he gave in Japan. Okay, and then I added some other, the lecture to top management, And I sort of, yeah, here it is. What you're seeing in the book is, I typed this whole thing out. So the book that I just showed you is the whole text. Okay, this is 1950, classic Deming in Japan, exactly explaining to them the role of statistical quality or control charts, as he called it. So introduction and his beautiful diagram, and of course how this has to be applied everywhere. Okay, the old way, the great plan, do study act, not check act, as he insisted. Okay, so all of this is right here in the flesh, so to say, right? But that one I don't have permission to share, like I said. Okay, so coming back, yeah. But the administration of statistical quality, I could share that document, okay, because I mean, and it's for free, so I'll share that. And all, if you want the originals, like I said, you could always go on on the Deming website, deming.org, and download it from there. So these are the resources. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Anything left, Valerie?
No, I really do appreciate your time. Thank you for giving us all this highly valuable information. This has been great.
Okay, I hope this is the beginning of something.
It is, definitely. I hope everybody on here got some value and some actionable actions to take away along with this.
Yeah, so you could always give me a feedback later.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, ho. So everybody can put on the videos. Let me see who they are.
All right. Well,
Okay.
if there's
Oh my
nothing.
God. There are most of my students here.
Yes, sir.
I thought they were fed up with me. Oh my goodness. Good to see y'all, guys.
You have a lot of admirers, and I know for sure I had a lot of people reach out to me who are unable to attend, who are excited to get this video so that they can learn from you as well.
Oh, they've learned from me. I mean, they can teach me. So good to see all of them. I hope they get a chance. Some of them are working already. If they get a chance, many of them are using them. You know, many of the alumni getting back in touch and saying that, wow, we're actually wreaking havoc at our place of work because we're saying things that the others don't know of. You know, the limit.
Well, that is great. That is good to hear.
Good. All right. So I hope we can have, I mean, it's up to you, Valerie. If you get any feedback or something, then we could talk about this a little more.
Yes, absolutely. Would love to interview another time.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for.
Okay. Bye-bye. It's good
Bye.
night from us.
All right. Have
You
a
have a good day.
good evening to you.
Yes, whatever's left of it.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.